Well, good morning, everybody. So this is always an honor for me to come on and be able to chat with you this morning. And I've got some really, hopefully, very insightful tidbits for you this morning. So here we are, the last go big call of the year. We got a couple days left in 2025. And here's one thing. I have this conversation with my wife all the time when it comes to New Year's. We actually got married on New Year's Eve, and people asked us, "Did you do it for tax reasons or anything else?" It just happened to be the right time of the year and the right venue and everything for us to make it happen. But somebody always asks me, "Do you make New Year's resolutions?" And I got to tell you, that's one of my biggest pet peeves is making New Year's resolutions. I always said that if something needed to change, why would I wait to New Year's to try to make the change? But that being said, it is a great time of the year to reflect and say, did I reach my goals that I had planned for the past 12 months? So I look back and I'm going to say, well, if I'm going to look forward now to December 31st of 2026, what will my life look like? So let's just kind of paint a picture here. What is it that we truly, truly want? So let's just say you're standing in your office, maybe after the last adjustment of the year, December 31st, 2026, and you're looking at your numbers. And let's just say, hypothetically, your collections are higher than they have ever been. Your schedule's full, but it's not chaotic. Your team is fully engaged and not exhausted. You're working actually fewer hours than you did in the past 12 months. And most importantly, you're practicing chiropractic, serving your purpose, creating a mission, sharing your vision amongst your patients and your team and your family, and you're just loving life. Let's just picture that. How does that happen? So let's just say, is that something that we can truly manifest into our life? And if that's the case, there are measurable action steps on how to do that. Okay. So we're going to go through this morning and just talk about that. So the first thing is that we really have to define the direction. And the thing is, goals need to be very specific. And there's this mnemonic that I like to use when it comes to goal setting. And the mnemonic is SMART. Because when you take a goal, the more specific you can get with that goal, the easier it is to reverse engineer it and put the action steps in place so that goal can really be truly, come to life down the road. So we have to have our chiropractic North Star. So we don't want vague goals. It can't be something like make more money, have higher collections, have better systems. It has to be very specific. So we're going to start with a specific goal. Let's say we want to increase our collections to 120K a month. Whatever number is right for you compared to where you're at. That's the first thing. So it has to be specific, and then we can reverse engineer it. The second thing is it has to be measurable. So if we take the acronym of SMART, SMART, specific, S is specific, M is measurable. You must be able to track the progress with numbers. That's very, very important. So what numbers can we look at? Well, obviously we look at our total revenue. We look at patient visits. We look at conversion rates, retention, and the number of hours that we're working. But here's the thing. This is the really important thing. If we don't start measuring this and keeping stats, it's never going to happen. So one of the things that I like to talk about when we talk about actually trying to scale our practice is really keeping track of stats. And this is something I learned very early in practice. And I want to share a couple things with you. And this is something that really worked in our practice. So I delegated one team member who embraced it. And she was the one who said, yes, I'm willing to keep the stats and willing to be 100% on board with everything we do as far as keeping those numbers. So she, at that time, had a spreadsheet. She just basically was a clipboard that she kept, and she drew this graph on the spreadsheet. It was like a piece of graph paper. And she would take a column, and the first column would be appointments. And we had one sheet for every month. So it would be all the appointments that were made in that month. And then the next column would be day ones. And so everybody that was in that appointment column, when they made it to day one, she would write their name or put a little check beside their name under day one. And so we could track all of those appointments that actually showed up for day one. So that gave us feedback to say, okay, is our process for getting those appointments in the door, is it working, or are we falling short? And then she would have the next column of day two. Did they make it from day one to day two? And she would have a little checkbox. And that literally, that clipboard was under her arm every single huddle, every staff meeting, every training. She had it and she kept it up on a day-to-day basis. So at any time, during any huddle, during any meeting, I could look back and I could say, what happened to John Smith? And she said she could be able to say, okay, well, John Smith had his new patient appointment. He came in for his day 1 on February 13th, and his day 2 was on February 14th, and then he dropped off. Then he never showed up again. So we would be able to track new like appointments, day 1, day 2, day 3, conversion, and then all the way to first re-exam. So that theoretically would be the first month of their engagement in the office, because obviously the day 1 and the first re-exam would happen within a month. That was our goal. And so we could really reverse engineer where our breakdowns were, where the problems were, where the strengths were, and we really tried to make sure that our follow through on doing everything we needed to do to get those patients from appointment at least to their first re-exam, because we figured by the time they got to their first re-exam, they started to have some level of commitment of chiropractic care. The chances of them following through throughout their care plan and then becoming lifetime patients were a lot higher, but they had to get to that first re-exam. That was our goal. So we really put a lot of attention on that, and thus created a great retention-based practice. So that's the second thing, is measurable. So start keeping stats. And if you don't keep really good stats, that's something that, if you scale your practice, that is the number one thing to put into place. So let's make that a goal for 2026, is get your note taking and your stat keeping up to par. And it's easy to delegate that. That doesn't have to be a doctor duty. That can be delegated to a team member who's willing to embrace it, but hold them accountable and make sure it's reflected on a daily basis. So that's the first thing. So SM, we've talked about specific, measurable, attainable. So let's make attainable goals. SMA, so attainable. So the goal should stretch you, but let's make it realistic. Let's make a goal that's something we can take. So let's kind of think about this a second. Well, if we want to grow our practice to 300 patient visits a week, well, let's say we're in our office 5 hours a day, 5 days a week, that's 25 hours a week, but we're only able to see a patient every 10 minutes. Then if we, again, reverse engineer that, 5 hours a day, we're only seeing 6 people an hour. That's maximum 30 people a day, 5 days a week, maximum 150 people. If we want to get to 300 people a week, we need to make a change. So let's make that goal somewhat attainable, that we can actually get to that point. So again, if we can start to analyze some of these things we do on a daily basis, we can say, okay, where do we need to make the change that helps us to reach that goal that we want to make? And so when you start making these specific goals, and then you can start analyzing the details, it makes it much more attainable. And then you can start putting the action steps into place to actually reach that goal. So SMA, A is attainable. R is realistic. Is this goal realistic? So the goal must align with obviously with your current resources, your life priorities, and your values. And here's one thing that finally became a real revelation to my wife and I when we started having children. We had 4 kids, 4 boys. And when we're in the practice together, she's a chiropractor too, so we're in the practice together, obviously the kids are not being taken care of. So what we did is we had to modify our life so that one of us was in the practice with patients adjusting, and the other one was off with the kids. And so we actually managed that life quite well. But then we got to the point where we wanted to be part of their activities. We wanted to be part of their sports. We wanted to be part of their, not miss their recitals at school, these types of things. We wanted to have family time together with the 2 of us and all 4 kids, go on vacations and things. So we actually had to put the systems in place to create that, and we had to build the team around us. So when you start making the goal, let's start to consider what has to happen in our life for these goals to become reality. And is it something that's realistic? Is it a goal that's going to allow you to put the systems in place to attain that goal? Or is it a goal that's going to stretch you so much that it causes chaos and stresses you out? So this is the thing that we have to really start to analyze. Are we heading in a direction that our life is going to be fruitful and fun as we approach that goal. And the last one is time bound. So we said specific, so S, measurable, attainable is A, realistic is R, and then T is time bound. Every single goal needs a deadline. So if you're going to make a goal for your team this year, if you're going to make a goal for whatever it is, your practice growth, your collections, or even personal victories, let's put a time frame on it. Let's say you want to have 2 vacations in the next year. Let's put a time frame on it and actually make that happen in that specific time frame. There has to be a clear end date, and then we can define the milestones along the way. So that creates an urgency, and it allows us to focus on actually attaining that goal. So bottom line, SMART goal turns hope into structure, it turns vision into action, and it actually turns our effort into some level of results. And when we start to apply this SMART thinking, the growth stops being accidental and starts becoming very intentional. So once our vision and our goals become intentional, by putting the systems and action steps in place, they become so much more realistic and so much more attainable. So once we set that goal and we create that vision, now we can divide that up into what we call power goals. So now we're going to break this down and say, okay, let's make some power goals. So if our goal is to double our practice, or if our goal is to increase our collections, or if our goal is to see more people, or really serve our mission, whatever that is, whatever specific goal you've created for yourself, how do we break that down and say, okay, let's reverse engineer it? What are the steps we need to place? So maybe it's hiring or upgrading a CA or office manager. Maybe it's getting them some specific training that they need to get to the place where you need them to be part of the team, or more valuable to your team. Maybe it's implementing some sort of consistent reactivation system. And I'm going to tell you, that's one thing definitely that we see when, obviously in coaching a lot of practices, so many practices focus on attaining new patients. You're running Facebook ads or Instagram ads, or you're out in the marketplace, or you're out doing screenings or doing lunch and learns, trying to attract more new patients. And we don't spend enough time in retaining the patients that we have. And there are a lot of strategies that we can put in place to create a culture in our office and create this energy that just attracts people and allows people the ability and the desire to stay in your office as patients. And that's really where our attention can be so much more valuable when we start focusing on things like that. So increasing visit average or care plan compliance. So one of the things that we often talked about in our office, we were really focused on retention, was how do we get people to follow through with their care plan? And one thing specifically, and I know we talk about this in our group, is getting people under home care and making sure they're doing some level of home care. If you've got patients coming into your office that are not engaged in their care, they're coming in just to get adjusted, they've decided not to do home care, or they just basically, they've got a home care kit and they don't use it, that's something to be really concerned about, because people that don't do home care are not actively engaged in their spinal correction. They're not actively engaged in creating a vitalistic ability for them to live and reach their own health goals. And making sure that people follow through with that does 2 things. Number one, they get better results, they stay more engaged. And what happens is that you create this retention-based office. People that are engaged with home care stick around under your care a lot longer. So make sure that you're putting the time and energy in to not just teach those people how to do home care, encourage them that that's a really important part of their spinal rehabilitation or their spinal correction, but also put the steps in to do follow-ups to make sure that they're engaged in their home care and continuing to do it. So every re-exam, maybe you do a check, maybe you do a test, have your CA say, okay, can you show me what you're doing at home with your home care? Have a home care kit there so they can show you. And clearly, if they can't show you, then that means they're probably not doing it. Or maybe they're not doing it properly. So you can constantly reconnect them to doing that. And again, it's a very powerful way to keep people engaged in your care plan and in their retention. Um, Maybe it's time that you want to start adding a second doctor or an associate, and that could be part of the goal. If your goal is to grow and get to the level, or maybe your practice is demanding too much of your time and taking away from your family time, maybe it's a goal to get a second doctor or get an associate in there at the time. Here's the big thing is that having an associate is is a beautiful way to grow your practice into a business, because now everything that you do is not reliant on you. You can have a team working to serve your vision and serve your mission, not just you trying to pull the dog sled. So this is again really important. But the number one key is with having an associate, if that's part of your vision, is you still need to be the lighthouse. You need to be the leader in your practice. You need to be the one casting the vision to everybody else. And that is your main goal. Your main job in the office is to continually just share this vision with everybody. Share the light on where they're going. Just shine the light on the direction that your practice needs to go. And those docs who have successful associate agreements or independent contractors working their office have been, bar none, successful at casting that vision, successful at shining that light. And you can grow a great team because a great team needs a vision to jump onto. So that is the number one goal when it comes to growing your team, especially when it comes to adding associates into your practice. Step number 3, the time audit. So you want to audit where you are right now. And here's the hard truth is that most chiropractors get busy, but not successful. And what do I mean by that? Well, we start doing a lot of things that end up draining a lot of our time and a lot of our energy, but don't necessarily add to the vision. They don't add to our personal wealth. They don't add to the number of people that we can affect. They don't add to the effect and transformation of lives that we can have in our community. We start doing a lot of things that dilute that vision. So we need to start doing it what we call a time and energy audit. So here's a little goal or a little exercise that you can do. And you start taking your week and start tracking your time every 15 minutes and keep an active list of everything you're doing in that 15-minute slot right through the day. And then you go back and you take a look at it and you start labeling things. What of these energies or what of these activities added to my overall energy and helped me go towards that vision? And what of these activities, which one of these activities sucked, which one were energy vampires? What took away my energy? What took away my focus? And label those in red. And what we start doing is those tasks that are not doctor dependent. So in other words, any task that doesn't require my license, any task that doesn't require my experience, or any task that doesn't require my judgment, those are the ones we need to delegate. And what you start doing is you buy back your time. And here's a great way to start to think about that is that you can put a value on your hourly rate. So if you're a doc in the office and let's say you're seeing so many patients an hour, and you can add that up and say, okay, maybe my time is worth $400 an hour or $500 an hour. You can't build a 7-figure practice by doing $10 an hour tasks. So you need to start identifying these tasks that are sucking your energy and sucking your time and starting to take those tasks and delegating them, getting somebody else to do. Maybe that's checking your emails on a regular basis. Maybe it's doing all of the office maintenance. Maybe you're doing things at home, like your laundry or food prep or whatever it is, cutting your lawn. Maybe these are things that you need to start doing or delegating to other people so that you can take that time and use that time in a much more valuable position. Not use that time to sit on the couch and watch Netflix, or not use that time to go waste it, doing some other mundane activity, but using that time to grow your vision and serve your purpose in a bigger way. Maybe it's creating relationships with companies. Maybe it's going out and doing more talks, or maybe it's getting involved at a church and serving your vision that way. So these are things that we really start to need to start doing, is doing this time and energy audit. The most important thing we can do in trying to create a goal or trying to reach our goal is eliminate the tasks, not add more tasks, but eliminate the tasks that are sucking our energy away. Start clearing out our schedule. And by clearing out our schedule, we free up our mind. Most of you that are in this profession, and especially those of you who own your own practice and have grown your own practice, you are brilliant people. You are entrepreneurial. You're creators. And if you can free up your mind from the tasks that are draining your energy, all of a sudden you've opened the door for higher levels of creativity. And when you can start to open that door, what happens is you start to manifest great things. You start to grow into areas that you never thought you would grow into. So start eliminating the things that are sucking your energy and draining your time. Step number 4, create daily systems. Okay, so this is really, really important. And here's where it gets kind of fun. When we start breaking this down, one thing that I always did, and I'm going to give myself a huge pat on the back, I got really good at this, was trying to inspire our team. And I actually had a lot of fun with it. So I would seriously prepare for every single huddle. And this was at a time before I was really even using Google. There was no ChatGPT, anything like that. So I had to go do some actual research. And I would go get stats. I would look up stats on drug failure, medicine failures, like side effects of common medications, especially those. We had a lot of patients come in, and that was one thing we had a lot of discussion with our patients, is what medications they were on. Did their medical doctor give them some sort of a plan to get off those medications? And inevitably, everybody said, no, my medical doctor never talked to me about the plan to how to get off these medications. In fact, they would tell them, as you've all heard, once you're on this medication, you're on it for how long? The rest of your life. You'd hear that all the time. So that was one of my big things. I would get on my pedestal and say, that is absolutely BS. That's asinine. Don't think that way. You need to have a plan to change your life, to change your health, change your activity level to help you get off those medications. So ultimately, I would bring that into the team every single huddle. I would bring in some of the side effects of the medications, or some of the tragedies, or the lawsuits that some of these pharmaceutical companies were getting labeled with, and it was really fun. But it would get everybody just fired right up. And as a result of that, what did we do? We had this huge Rubbermaid container, this clear Rubbermaid container that was full of empty prescription bottles, where people would come in, and because we were very vocal about them getting off medications, they would come in and bring their empty medication. Some would bring their full medication bottles, and they'd throw them in this Rubbermaid container, and it was right in center view in our office. Everybody would see it. So you'd see all these medication bottles in this big Rubbermaid container, and literally we had to empty it out at different times because it would be overflowing. But that was a big mission of ours. So that's one of the things we really had fun with. But I would absolutely, literally every single huddle prepare for that to try to inspire the team. So the first step to create these systems, plan tomorrow today. So plan at the end of the day, whatever it is, plan tomorrow today. So have your big rocks. Make sure those big rocks are in place, and you know that those big rocks are going to happen tomorrow. And you've got the plan for that today. So if you have to go to bed at a certain time, so you can get up at a certain time to make sure that those things happen, then you can start planning for this. So end each day knowing your top 3 priorities for tomorrow. And that should directly support your big vision, your big goal. Second thing, win your morning. Your first 60 to 90 minutes matter in a big way. Create big wins. I watch videos of especially military people. They say the first biggest win that you can do is make your bed in the morning, because it's something very simple, but at least you can get up and you can create something and accomplish something right off the bat. So win your morning. So this could mean, reviewing your key performance indicators for the day. This could be watching some sort of a video on philosophy or a video on business, whatever that is. It could be reading a chapter in a book. It could be planning your team communication or preparing your huddles. It could be just working on some of the systems that have to happen. Maybe it's reviewing or redoing your care plans, whatever that is. But your first 60 to 90 minutes are a great time to prepare. Number 3 is work in sprints. So 25-minute focus blocks. So don't get caught up in long times, in front of your computer, in front of your television, in front, whatever it is. 25-minute blocks with no distractions, and then take breaks and reset your brain and give yourself a chance to just rejuvenate your mind, allow your mind the freedom. And then 4th thing is review your goals daily and ask yourself, does my calendar, and here's the big thing, your calendar is a reflection of your priorities. So if you look at your calendar, your daily calendar, is it a reflection of where you want your life to go, or is it a reflection of distraction? So does my calendar reflect my priorities, and did I move the needle, or am I just keeping busy? So most chiropractors don't lack discipline, they lack alignment to their goals. That's a big thing. We're all about alignment. We often lack alignment to our goals. We have subluxation of our goal setting. So let's try to remove that subluxation and make sure we're heading down the right path to create those goals. Step number 5, create leverage. Most successful chiropractors don't work harder. We just pull bigger levers. So the 4 levers of chiropractic growth. Well, what are they? Well, the 4 levers of chiropractic growth. So the 4 C's, we call them the 4 C's of scaling. So the first thing is code. And code is where you can start to automate the repetitive tasks. So maybe it's regular reactivation campaigns. Here's the big thing is that I see this all the time, is that chiropractor has a bad month and we get fidgety and we react. And what happens is then we say, okay, we got to up our marketing to get more new patients in the office the next month because our previous month was bad. And we can't live in this reactivation mode. So we have to start automating the regular things that are going to continue to get us growth. So maybe it's a reactivation campaign. Maybe it's a regular email. So here's one thing that worked really well is that every quarter, what we did is we had a reach out email campaign to anybody who hadn't been in the last quarter. So here it is, the beginning of January. We would look back in the calendar and say, okay, who hasn't, and the computer system was great for this because who has not been in since September? Well, they would go on the email list and the computer would print off this list and they would just get a regular check-in email. Hey, you haven't been in 3 months. Hopefully you're doing okay. This would be a great time to come in and let's get a re-exam. And sure enough, we'd maybe get 5% or 10% of those people to come back in and get reactivated under care. But that was all automated. It wasn't something that we reacted to. We had that as a regular systematic type of thing that every quarter, so the end of March, at the end of June, at the end of September, and at the end of the year, we would go back and look at the previous 3 months, who hadn't been in the previous 3 months. Obviously, your online scheduling, is the system that you're using effective so that people can actually schedule online to save your team time? And then is there good follow through? Are they actually coming in and showing up for their appointments? Is that a good system? Is that system working? Maybe, and now what's really popular is AI voice agents, that they're reaching out to your Facebook leads or they're reaching out to people for their reminder calls and actually having a conversation with them. So that's another big thing that you can look into as well. So code, wherever you can automate different systems of your practice, that's going to help you grow. Number 2 is content. Here's one thing that worked really well in our office is we started doing this, and I call it the camcorder method, in the fact that we started videotaping every single training. So we wanted to create a manual, and it was a video manual. So we did this YouTube playlist of trainings, and we would have our day 1 training and we'd videotape it and we'd role play and we'd go over our scripting and we'd, put different scenarios in, and we'd actually videotape that whole training, upload it to YouTube, put it in a playlist. And so if we ever had a new staff member come in that we had to train, here, go and take a look at these playlists. You want to go over day 2? Let's go back and look at the day 2 training. That's all online. So it's a great way to have these video trainings. And then when it came to training new people, it was so much easier. Scripts for care plans. Like, one of the things that we worked on very, very regularly was making sure that our systems and our scripting was always very, very good. And we had staff members that were there for over 20 years, and it's so easy to get off scripting when you're there for so long. Things become pattern-like. But that's one thing we put into place on a regular. We had a meeting every single week, and we would continue to go over these scripts and train on them, because we wanted to make sure that that they were right. We had a staff manual, and one thing to start this, all we did is we asked everybody to start to write down bullet point formation what their daily duties and what their daily responsibilities were. That was a great way to start it. So if you don't have a staff manual, this is a great way to do it. Ask each team member to write down what they do on a daily, and then a weekly, and then a monthly basis, and put these things into place. And then you put them all in a Google document, put them all together, and you start to refine it. And now you have a staff manual. So then when you have a new person come in, you have this staff playbook, you have the staff manual in place. And it's a living document so that you can constantly upgrade it and constantly improve it. The third C is capital, buying back your time, as we talked about. So here's the thing when it comes to hiring. Maybe you're at a place where you think, gosh, we could hire another person, but we're not ready yet. I don't want to spend the money. Hire early. Hire slow, fire fast, but hire early. And my suggestion is hire to help you get busier, not because you've gotten busier. So that really helps build the team up and helps you grow with a consistent way and not chaos. Invest in the system before burnout forces you to invest in the system, and pay to remove the friction from your life and your practice. So don't be afraid to buy back your time. That's the most important thing that you can get out of this. And the last thing is collaboration. So collaborating with people. So start looking for opportunities for partnerships. And one thing that we talk about now, and this is really big, is that corporations love to partner with people who promote well-being and wellness and energy in the workplace. Big corporations especially. So any type of business in your local area that has more than 25 to 30 employees and higher, they love creating energy for their employees. Especially in the last 5 years, there's a lot of people that work from home. There's a lot of people that that just want wellness as part. They're turning away from the medical system. They want out of that whole medical model. So anything that you can add to corporations to help promote that thinking, maybe it's going in and do quarterly talks. Maybe it's having some sort of a partnership with those corporations where you can be their team wellness leader. Go do ergonomic talks, look at their workstations, whatever it is. There's ways to build these partnerships, and that can not just build your practice, but build your presence in your community. You then become the expert in your community. And it's to be the best doctor. You look at this all the time. People say, who's the best doctor? Oh, I go to the best surgeon. I go to the best medical doctor. Whatever it is, for you to be the best doctor, you need to be the doctor that's most known and most respected. That's the best doctor. So get yourself known, build these partnerships that can help you get to your goal. And the last points here, upgrade your environment. So one of the things that I like to suggest is audit your personal circle. There's always this saying, and we say this all the time, is that you become the average of the 5 people you hang around with most. So start auditing the people you're hanging around with. Maybe it's family members, brothers, sisters, siblings, partners, whatever it is. Are they adding to your energy? Are they sucking your energy away from you? And start auditing the time you spend with them. So do they help you grow? Do they elevate your standards? Do they challenge you? Or do they create complacency in you? And do they allow you to have energy, or do they drain your energy? And this can include, like I said, your staff, your peers, your friends, long-standing personal or professional relationships. You can love people, but you can still set the boundaries. So that, again, is a really important thing to start to realize. Growth requires you to protect your energy. So stay accountable. Um, here's the thing. Accountability is really this is the answer for all of this. So find an accountability partner or create some sort of a system that keeps you accountable. It's easy to let yourself down. It's a lot tougher to let somebody who is your accountability partner down. So the thing is, just to sum up here, guys, you don't need 10 goals. You need one clear vision. And you need to take that vision and say, where do I want to be 12 months from now? How do I reverse engineer it? What are the power goals that I can put in to help me reach that vision? And start putting in the steps and putting in the systems that are going to give me the daily routine to make sure that I'm working towards getting to that vision. So it's one next step and it's executed consistently. Here's the big thing, and discipline, and this is a great quote, discipline is the bridge between vision and reality. Discipline. It's just being disciplined, having that goal so burned into your heart that you do not let that goal down. You do not let, here's the, here I'm going to give it to you in this way, is that God has a vision for your life. Don't let him down. There's a big vision waiting for you. Put the discipline in place to serve that purpose in a big way. I love you guys. End your year strong. Start your year even stronger. And we'll see you on the next call. Bless you.